Well, hello. How are you?
I'm
I'm
fine,
looking
and you?
forward. Good to see you, girl. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to
Oh,
have you here. I am LaQuita Parks, and I am the host of The Power of Your Story. This is another episode, and today is Thursday, and we meet here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with an amazing guest, and today is no different. And I am super excited. Listen, I know you guys are always like, LaQuita is always so super excited about something. That's because I love people. I absolutely love people. I am the owner of PayProV Publishing, and PayProV means pain, progress, victory, because I believe without pain, there's no progress, and without progress, there can be no victory. I help people take their stories from a thought to a realization, and that's the story of my life. Pain, progress, victory. That's the story of my life. I live it, I love it, and I help other people to realize it. So today, we have a fabulous guest with us. And I this is my first time meeting Miss Charlene, but we met last week through voice only when she popped into the power of your story on Clubhouse and shared her amazing story. And just the sound of her voice and hearing her story, I said, I want to have her on my show. And she said yes. You know, somebody said all you got to do is ask people. If you ask them, they'll say yes. So I don't know about you, Miss Charlene, but this has been a day for me. It has been a day. I am last few weeks recovering from COVID, and the symptoms after COVID are probably more bothersome than COVID itself. So if I start coughing and I go on mute, don't mind me. Okay, you just keep on going with your beautiful self. Okay.
all right.
All right. So, Miss Charlene, thank you so much for saying yes. And I am so excited to get into your story and talk about what you do and who you are. Now, we practiced on her last name before we came on live. So I'm going to see if I can get it right, because you know we can mess up a name, right? We can
Yeah.
mess up a name. You can imagine somebody that pronounces the word LaQuita, my name, 12,000 different times in 12,000 different ways, and was like, it's LaQuita. It's pronounced the way it sounds, right? So Charlene Harold Owamana.
All right.
I
All right.
said it right. Okay. All right. See, I did it. Just try. That's all I did was just try. So, Miss Charlene, could you please tell us about yourself and where you're from, and what do you do before we get into our conversation?
Okay. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to God for allowing me to be a guest on your show and you to invite me and me to accept. Let's start there because it's so amazing on what you can give to people to change the whole trajectory. And you have given me so much strength and power over this week. I'm telling you, I pray to God that He gives me what He has for me. And right now, today, I know this platform and what we're talking about today is exactly what He gave me to carry on with. So I have been a healthcare worker for over 36 years, as a nurse, a licensed practical nurse for 19 years. Um, and I am just an advocate for everything that has to do with healthcare and kids because I've been doing peds for like the last 12 years.
Awesome, awesome. You know, it's funny because I shared a little bit of my story on Clubhouse, and my story of walking limitations, and how I was crippled at the hands of a nurse.
Uh-huh.
And it's amazing. It's always amazing to me when I have guests or when I'm talking to people who are in the medical field. I love talking to I we haven't had the conversation, but you know my issues happened when I was a child, and so it has continued, and it caused a lifelong problem for me. And so going to the doctor is always a traumatic experience for me.
Right.
It's my least favorite thing to do. And I meet so many people, and it's funny. The last time I was at a book signing, and I met a woman, and I don't even know her name, but when she saw my book, Walking Limitation, she asked me what was the book about, and I told her. And when I said, you know, I was crippled at the hands of a nurse, she got on the defensive And she said, well, it was an accident, she blew it off. And I said, well, I'm sure, I don't think that she actually came in with the intent. At least I hope she didn't come
Right.
in with the intent to harm me. And I was 4 years old. I
Right.
said, but what she did from there, she stole my record. She lied about it. It covered it up. I said, that's where the problem, not only that, the whole situation. And
Mhm.
so this lady, and I never got her name, but I remember she had on an electric blue dress, an electric color blue dress. And she got defensive, as if I was blaming her for what happened to me, when I simply said that I'm sure it was a mistake. So I say that to say, when I talk to people who are in the medical field, I don't usually don't get that response. I
Right.
usually get one of compassion. I usually get one of sympathy, and one of understanding. Well, how did it happen? I even had one nurse that said, well, we're trained to do it this way. And how did it happen? And so when I read your bio, because when we met on Clubhouse, you didn't say I'm a nurse. You
Correct.
shared your story. So I had no way of knowing you were a nurse until I saw your bio, and I said, oh wow. So it's it evokes a different kind of emotion, because I was a child and you're a pediatric nurse. So when I
Yes.
look at that to me, that's extra, extra compassionate, extra kind, extra loving. And I applaud you, because it's a difficult position, especially I know what I went through: 15 surgeries on my right leg and foot, before I was 15 years old.
Right.
So you were the heart and the personality that was dealing with a child like me.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so I thank you for what you do, and just your demeanor and knowing your story. I'm appreciative for you taking care of those babies the way you do. And for 19 years, it's not a job. It's not a job. So that's my I had to put my, bit on my little soapbox. So that's my story. And so I just wanted to say that, because it kind of made me feel all kind of, feeling some emotions coming up here. So if I break out in tears, y'all don't say nothing. Don't
Well,
say.
you have a nurse here that is so compassionate that I will say something and it would make you laugh, because being a pediatric nurse to me is I get to play all day.
See, I love that. I love that. I love that attitude. So
Yeah.
what made you go into nursing?
Well, when I was, oh, let me tell you, when I was young, I used to always go to this clinic in Baltimore at University of Maryland on Redwood Street. Everybody who was born back in the 60s and 70s, they knew about this clinic. And every day I would only see one African American nurse every time I go in there. And I used to hope that she get me every time I came in there, because it was just something about the Caucasian nurse that I just didn't want her to talk to me.
Hmm.
Because I saw someone who looked like me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
That's
I was
important.
just so fascinated with her until one day I had to ask her, what do you do? Who are you? And she told me a nurse, and she asked me, what did I want to be when I get older? I said, just like you.
Wow. Wow. I like that. I do
Mhm.
a creative writing program. And today I asked the students, what do you want to be? Well, I posted like this: if you could do anything in the world and knew that you wouldn't fail at it, what would it be? And they were like, what? If you could do anything, if there was something in this world, Charlene, I'll ask you, if there was anything in this world that you wanted to do and you knew there was no way you would fail at it, what would it be?
Be a doctor,
See, be a
a
doctor.
pediatric doctor.
See, they said things like, one little boy said play golf, and I asked, do you play golf? And he said no. And I said, why golf? He said, because he said I've gotten stuff to play. He said, I've gotten stuff to play football, basketball, baseball. He said, but never golf. He said, and I know it would be a challenge. And I
Exactly.
asked another child, what do you want to be? One said doctor. He said a doctor or a teacher. And I said, why a doctor or a teacher? He said, because I love people and I have compassion for them. And
Wow.
so we have to start, and I know you can appreciate that, and I appreciate your story because we have gotten away and a lot. I don't hear a lot of asking them what they want to be and guiding them to that down that road. Sometimes you say, well, what do you want to be? Well, I want to be a rapper. Well, now you can't be a rapper. What do you want to be? I want to be a doctor. You can't be a doctor. It's too hard. Instead of encouraging them, well, you rapping might not be the best thing, but what other things can you dissect from that you can guide them down the road that they can aspire to be more.
Mhm.
So I appreciate that. I want to see people that look like me, and that was your why. So, I
Yes.
mean, I love it. I love it. So, how long? We lost your screen. You went blank there.
I'm back.
Charlene, can you see
Yep,
it?
here
Okay.
I am.
So after you did, when she told you you could be, she was a nurse, and you told her you want to be just like her. What did you do? Did you think in your mind, okay, I'm gonna be a nurse, and you positioned that, and that's the direction that you made sure that in school and all that you wanted to take, or was there a little, some side?
Well, it's always a curveball in there.
Yeah.
So, when I went to high school, my high school had a nursing program. And I was thinking to myself, well, maybe I can get into the nursing program. But see, this is the thing we don't think about. God have other plans for us. No matter what we want to do, sometimes He take charge and show us where we need to start and then where we end up later.
Mhm.
So, in me picking three choices, I picked nursing, cooking, and pastry chef. Can you guess which one was mine?
Pastry chef.
No, man.
Cooking,
Yes.
cooking.
So I was disappointed in the beginning that I was not accepted into the nursing program.
Because we cooks.
Right. But my mom, who is my greatest hero, she explained to me that God decided to place you where you can start your career. And I want you to go in this cooking class and be the best cook there is.
Awesome. Great
And you know
advice.
what? I went into that program with a positive mind. And believe it or not, for that school, we participated with all the students in the class, and I won first place.
Awesome. Awesome.
In the
So you guys
state,
really cooked? You guys really cooked?
we really had
Okay.
to.
Was
Let
it
me,
home ec? Was it called home ec?
no, ma'am, it was called food services.
Really?
Yes.
See, they didn't
It
have
was
that in
at
my
a
school.
Yeah, it was at a technical school, and it
Okay.
was called food services, and they also had pastry chefs.
Okay.
So I took commercial food services. Um, After I won the competition at my school with all my classmates,
Mm-hmm.
then the biggest gift was I had to participate with the whole state of Maryland cooking classes.
Oh, wow.
Well, the important piece there was the 60s was a little tough for anyone. I used to think that being in the 60s and the 70s, 80s was a good year. But
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, some of that tension was still going on really heavy back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I competed at the Culinary Art Institute here in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
We had to take a full recipe and break it down to 4 servings.
So what was the meal that you cooked? Do you remember?
We had to do this red wine chicken, tapioca pudding, homemade macaroni and cheese, cornbread, and I believe it was string beans.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. So you
And
learned
guess what place I could place in?
you you won first place.
No, well, I won first place in my heart.
And that's what matters the most.
Right? I won second place, brought home a bronze medal,
Awesome.
a heavy bronze medal. Um, in my eyesight, I won first place. So the kid who won first place was supposed to go to nationals.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what happened?
He couldn't
That
make it.
kid that won first place, they really had no intentions on sending that kid to that competition. And that was the first time that I learned winning second place meant you were going to stay in second place, because my mom told me they did not give me that first medal and I was not representing this state at that competition, because in my eyesight, my school eyesight, we won first place.
Mm.
And she showed me that good penmanship was you had to live by where you landed, and not everybody should be given a silver spoon. If they given that spoon, then they should be a good sport and handle it.
Yes. You know what? That you said a handful, because we are living now in a generation, or we are or the world is bringing up a generation of people who feels like everybody needs to win, and if everybody doesn't get a prize, nobody gets a prize.
Right.
We're and so it's not faring well. It
Mm-mm.
isn't faring well, and I like that. I appreciate that, because as we grow up, we lost your camera again. As we grow up, we do. My children were taught, you get rewarded based on your merits. You don't get rewarded based on because everybody else got a prize. And
Right.
now they're raising their kids the same way. However, we have a whole society of, it's not fair, everybody gets one. I mentioned the creative writing program, and I know you do a lot with communities, and I have a mentoring program, and I love it. And I go into these summer camp programs, and within the summer camp programs, there are kids. If you don't give them something, they can be tearing up the room, swinging a chair, slamming the doors, slamming somebody. And when it comes time to get a treat, they feel like they deserve a treat too. And
Right.
so when they don't get that treat, they're upset. Well, they don't think that I don't deserve this. So but I like the way that you put it. You put it very nicely when you said everybody doesn't deserve a silver spoon.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth doesn't mean that you get to keep it there. You
Absolutely.
have to
Absolutely.
earn that. I love that. So how, you can, do you want to share a little bit of the story that you shared on Clubhouse? Um,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
I'd love to share the story. We talked about on Clubhouse, who's the hero of your story. And I shared that my grandmother was the hero of my story. I also shared that my grandmother passed away. And I don't know if I shared on the story that my grandmother and my mother passed away 17 days apart.
Okay.
And so it was traumatic then, and it is still traumatic now. We keep losing your camera, Charlene. It's something's going on there.
These people know you on a show, but they still want to call you.
Stop calling, y'all. We'll be finished in a little while. Stop it. Stop it.
Exactly. Let us complete.
Yes. So we had, it was a very rough time. It was 2009, and it was a very rough time. And it was totally devastating, totally devastating. But my grandmother was my hero, because I learned a lot of life lessons from her. And I realized as I got older, some of the lessons that I learned, I didn't understand them until after she was gone. And it's amazing with my mom and my grandmother. You don't understand what they were trying to say then. Like the saying, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. I didn't know
Amen.
what that meant. And then when I weep through the night and there was joy in the morning, I understood what that meant, because it didn't mean that my situation and my circumstances changed from overnight. It just means that it's fresh. I have a different way of looking at it. I have a different idea. I have a thought that I didn't have when I was weeping through the night, and then I was cleansed from it.
Oh,
So
wow.
I like the looking at the lessons and taking those lessons to heart. And so you shared some of the things that you learned in the and what happened with you as a child with your mother. I love the lesson. So please share what you shared with us on Clubhouse.
Okay, so I like to break this down a little better for your listeners than, I just jump right in.
Feel
So I'm
free.
just gonna tell the folks just a little story a little bit. Because this is something that's really dear to my heart. So I always say, my mom is my greatest hero. And when I talk about me and my mom relationship, you know, I always tell people my mom was my all. It's something like, when you have that favorite meal you like, you don't want any other meal but that meal.
Yeah.
And I also try to make it, fit in with everybody so that everybody can relate, because some people, their mom is not their hero. But
Right.
for me, I said my mom's death saved my life. So many people ask me, like, Charlene, why would you say your mom saved your life? You know, and we sit back and we think like, sometimes we look at the bright side of things and we say, is this a real true meaning? And for me, I had to think of those things. I have to wonder, was this real for me that my mom was gone, or was I just stuck in a dream? Because sometimes dreams have you really wondering, and when you wake up you're like, am I
Was this
dreaming?
real or am
Yes,
I
like,
asleep? Yeah.
yeah, like what happened? Or you'll tell yourself, wake up, wake up, wake up. So when my mom passed away, we had a house fire, and my mom and my 6-month-old brother passed away through the house fire. And at first, I was the only one out, the only one out of the house fire. And I just kept asking God, why me? Why today? Why is this day? And He spoke to me, and when I was outside, I looked up at the window and my mom told me, go down the street, everything's going to be okay. Back then, I didn't understand. Today, I understood the assignment. The
Hmm.
assignment was my mom's death saved my life. Living in a vulnerable community, and sometimes people think that you're poor, think
Hmm.
that you don't have a sense of being, um, think that you can't make anything out of yourself. So when I say that my mom is my hero, and I say that my mom's death saved my life, I go back and I think of those 15 years that I spent with my mom, all the things she taught me. 8 years old, I didn't have a choice not to go to church. Going to church was going to church. You had
Hmm.
no say so. But you
Right.
did have a position that you could have in that church. Mine was not on a choir because I couldn't sing, couldn't hold a tune. Um, it wasn't sitting on the front line being with the pastor wife. I decided that I wanted to be on the usher board because one thing was for sure, I knew how to march. And I knew how to march for God. And that's what was so amazing, that my mom gave me the opportunity to choose my position in church, you know. And that is what stuck with me those 38 years that I have been in mind with her, in spirit feeling her, and in thought knowing that she's still here as my cheerleader. I'm thinking of, that your mom's death saved your life. I sat back and I thought to myself, if my mom was here, would I be a nurse? Would I be a doctor? Or would I be caught up in that neighborhood with the
Hmm.
same mentality that some of my friends have today?
Hmm.
You know, everybody, pray that, their life change. Everyone prays that, they are college material, or they could be rich one day like that, or
Right.
that they could, you know, become an entrepreneur overnight.
Hmm.
I didn't have any of that, you know. I had my mom's blessing, I had my mom's prayer, and most of all, I had my mom's love. It
Hmm.
was just something about this household. You couldn't go to sleep mad with each other. I don't care what mad you thought you was mad. And still to the day I don't know the definition of mad because we never had that in our house. The only definition and the only definition we were taught was love, kindness, and spiritual. That
Mm.
was it. We didn't know about mean, mad, bad. And if we
Me
did
mad
know about,
bad.
yeah, if we did know about it, she made sure that we figured out what the right word was. Get down on your knees. You know, some of these people know how to pray, but let me tell you what my mother called prayer. My mother called prayer and getting your prayers answered. Get down on your knees. You could have a knee replacement, you could have a broken knee, but ain't nothing gonna stop you from getting down on that knee at that time when you need to pray to God, you know, especially not now, family. Bad knees, you got down. I don't care if you had to lay down to pray, you was getting down low to pray. Because my mom said the lower you got, the higher and the more blessings that God was going to give to us. So that was my mentality. And you know, so, like I said, in my life, we didn't have a lot. We lived in the projects,
Hmm.
770 West Saratoga Street building. You know, I love that neighborhood called Lexington Terrace. Even though we moved out of there after 13 years, because my mom had to take care of my grandfather and his sister. I tell you, when we moved from there, I was lost.
Wow.
I was really lost. And it
So,
was,
let me ask you a question. So
uh-huh,
you moved from the vulnerable, you were lost after moving from the vulnerable community?
yes.
Wow, that's very interesting. So we
Yes.
don't, so sometimes when we're moving to a different location, a physical location, we don't go there mentally.
Right.
And sometimes when we're moving, because we're used to something, so it's better. I'm used to what I know. What I don't know, I'm not used to that. I'm not comfortable with that. So it's easy to go with what I knew. You know, they said the devil you know, versus the one you don't know. It's easy. So that's important because you see a lot of that where people won't move and people won't try and people won't do something different because they're comfortable and content and they're scared. They're
Yes. And I
scared.
was
And there's nothing
really,
wrong
really
about that.
scared. Yes. I was really, truly scared. And, you know, when my mom passed away, here I was again,
Hmm.
vulnerable. Because now we've moved from one neighborhood where I was vulnerable. And now we moved into another neighborhood where I was just beginning to trust. I
Hmm.
was just beginning to open up. You know, I was just meeting new friends, you
Hmm.
know? And now my mom passed away. Now, where do I go? You know? But luckily, I had an aunt and an uncle who was willing to take me and my little sister in. And
Hmm.
and God has a way of connecting people. My aunt and my uncle usually visited us every week. It was like they was a part of our family.
Hmm.
So one of the parts that was easier for me transitioning a second time was that I had my aunt and uncle that I was going to live with. But here I was again, a vulnerable kid,
Hmm.
lost, and now in a new neighborhood.
Wow. And having to start life over again.
Right. And then I thought about that day when my mom moved us from the projects into a middle class neighborhood and how I felt and how those 2.5 years I learned a life lesson that no matter where you go, if you just give it a chance,
Just try.
just give it a little chance. You'll meet new friends.
Hmm.
You won't forget about your old friends because I still called them. I still was able as I got older to go see them, you know. But it was like giving the kids a chance in a new neighborhood that I was in. And you know, now I feel special because this is my second move. in my lifetime, this was like a second move for me. I met friends whose parents were in the military. They moved constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I just couldn't embrace at first this second move. The second move was a shift that I got very, very depressed. Very depressed, wondering how was I going to make it through another transition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, this
But
was after you lost your mom.
after I lost my mom, I
Mm-hmm.
had to move to a second neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And, being in the projects 13 years, I mean, you're used to the neighborhood. You can go where you want. You can do what you want. Your friends are always there. There's always an adult there to make sure you're doing the right things. Now, I was placed in this neighborhood where it was middle class. So it was a lot different than being, in the projects. Now, I called us the Jeffersons. We were moving on up.
To the east side. And you know what? I like that. There are, and you know what? It's important because what you said is so true. Sometimes when we're moving, when we're changing our location and we're moving around, we're uncomfortable,
Mm,
and a lot of times we allow our discomfort to not let us grow. And as children, it's hard to do. It's hard to do that.
mhm.
But when we become adults, it's even harder because sometimes we don't want to. We don't want to know what's on the other side of the door,
Right.
when what's on the other side of the door can be great. I have my mentor says all the time, the worst thing that happens to you can be the best thing for you,
Mm,
as long as you don't allow it to get the better of you.
yes.
So if I'm sitting and I'm constantly thinking I can't do it, I can't do it, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, then guess what? It's not going to work. And it's different when you're a child. When you're a child, somebody else is guiding those decisions. You don't have a
Absolutely.
choice. You didn't have a choice whether you were going to go live east, south, north, south, east, or west. You didn't have a choice whether you were going, to the upper echelon or to the pits of the projects. You didn't
Yes.
have a choice. You had to go where you were told at that point. I
Right.
remember when my mom passed, my niece lived there. My niece was, I think I want to say she was 18. I'm not sure, but she wasn't a child, and we had to tell her. I asked her, "What do you want to do?" And she didn't. And she was my mom spoiled her. Our parents tend to, when we have grandchildren, we tend to want to do for our grandchildren what we couldn't do for our children, and sometimes we kind of spoil them a little too much. So I asked her. I said, "What do you want to do?" And I explained to her, "You're not a baby. You're not 12, you're not 13, you're not 15, where we have to say, okay, you have to come and live with me, or you have to go and live with your aunt. You get to choose. So what is it that you want to do?" And a part of me feels like she's still lost in some ways, in a
Mhm.
lot of ways, because my mom was her grandmother, but that was the only mother she knew, because her
Right.
mother wasn't a part of her life. And so we as parents, as adults, we have the responsibility to guide our children and to guide those ones that we come in contact with. That's why when I read your bio and I saw you help vulnerable communities, I was like, okay, she does like I do.
Yes.
Going into different communities, making a difference. And there are things that it takes a strong person to work with a vulnerable community,
Hmm.
or as I said, different. I was talking to somebody. I said the different demographics, and she said, "It's okay, Miss LaQuita. You can say the hood. You can say you working with the kids from the hood." And I was like, "Well, no, no." And sometimes, we watched the movie. What was his name? Robin Williams, or the black guy that was Baby Kids.
Oh, girl,
That
yes.
show. And
I
I
don't know his
remember.
name, but girl, baby kids were off the chain.
Right. And so I said, you know what? Oh my goodness, these kids are, I was like, these are, a bunch of baby kids. But I did something that you said. I said, you know what? It was a lot. When I went to one of the daycares, it was a lot. The kids were everywhere. I'm coming. It's the beginning of the summer. They just got out of school last week. And the last thing they want to know, here come this woman talking about some creative writing. They wasn't having it. They didn't know me. First of all, they didn't want to be there. They got dropped off with people and like probably some people they didn't get along with in school. And now I got to see you for the summer too. I don't care who you are. I don't want to be a part of this. And so it took a while to kind of get them to the mindset. And I thought, I'm not going back. This is why I work with teenagers because I don't want to do this. And I said, you know what? I need to change my attitude. I
Right.
need to change my thinking, change my way of thinking. And sometimes and you know this, sometimes when you're working with vulnerable communities, you got to roll with it, rock with it. You got to lean with it. You got to lean where they lean at the same time, mentoring and guiding them. And it's not an easy task. And so instead of me, using my first mind and say, okay, I don't have to be here. You know how you got the teachers that say, I got my education. You got to get yours. You don't need me.
Yeah.
I don't need you. You need me. And I'm thinking, I don't have to be here. I'm here for you guys. I don't have to take my time to be here. And then there's that still voice that says, yes, you do. Yes, you do. This is you have a responsibility to do your part. And this
Right.
is your part. So I decided to change my attitude and go back still with the discipline and then going on and say, okay, we got to make something. These people have stories. There's an origin to why they behave the way that they behave. And my
Absolutely.
mentor said, you know what, LaQuita, you're planting seeds. And that's what we are, Charlene. We're
Yeah.
just seed planters. You're planting seeds, and those seeds may not even come to fruition until you're long gone.
Right.
But
Right.
all we can do is plant seeds. So how do you plant seeds in with vulnerable communities? What do you do? Tell me your how you go into you got a group of kids that say, I don't know, I don't want to, I'm not doing it. I don't care what you say.
Well, I have a program called Nurses Hive. And with Nurses Hive, I go in the class with two seeds. In the Bible they talk about the one mustard seed.
Yes.
I carry two. I carry two seeds. One seed we can plant. But the difference between planting these two seeds is you telling me what you want to get out of this, and I'm telling you what I'm here for. Which
Mhm.
seed are you going to take? And I give them a choice.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I define my seeds. This seed says that you can come in this arena and you can do exactly what you want to do all day long. But at the end of the class, you're going to have to write me a report and tell me what you learned. Or you can take this seed and I have a curriculum that we're going to follow. And at the end of this curriculum, you're going to write down and tell me all the good things that you research to find out what your skill set is. It's up to you guys.
You
Which
get to
seed
choose.
are you going to take?
You get
And
to choose.
I say, and I'm going to give you 2 weeks if you pick this seed to see if you want to come over or you want to stay over there and do what you want to do. I'm going to give you some leeway and I'm going to let you observe what's going on this side of the room.
Exactly.
Because what I was not given was a choice.
Mhm. Mhm.
When I was younger, I was told to go here. I was told to do this. I was told you're going to do this. And I succeeded, yes. But now what I found out is times have changed.
Yes.
And at a younger age, we need to teach our children and people in vulnerable communities that you do have choices.
Yes.
Now, in the process of teaching them that choice, we definitely going to talk about what's going to be on the other side.
Yes.
Because if I don't,
They need to know. They need to know. They need to
if
know.
I don't tell you the choice and where you're going, and not tell you what's on the other side, then you're gonna think that you took the best seed.
Mhm.
And I tell them all, every day you have 100. You have the choice to keep it. I can't change it. You're gonna be the changing vessel on this ship. So when I explain it to them like that and I give them the responsibility, because now guess what? The responsibility is not mine.
You get to choose. You get to choose. I think that I think we spend more time, and when I say we parents spend more time, um, get telling their children what to do, and not giving them the whole story, not telling
Mhm.
them all of the anticipated or the possible outcomes.
Mhm.
I have three children, three adult children, and two of my I have two daughters and one son. My two daughters have children. They
Mhm.
have My oldest has three plus a stepson, and then my youngest has one. And in a conversation, we were talking about something. My oldest daughter has a podcast, and they talked about some parenting. When when our children get older, they judge parent, they judge mama, they judge mom and daddy, and they've been traumatized, and they say, I'm not gonna do this to my children. And
Mm.
it's easy to say, and I said, it's easy to say, because each we do what we can, we do what we know, because there is no handbook. Even if there is a handbook, there is no handbook, because every situation, every parenting situation is different. So
Right.
in communicating with them, and they are excellent mothers. Very, I mean, my children are excellent mothers, and I like to think that I had some hand in that. I am grateful. I am grateful to God that He gave me the strength to do what I need to do and do it alone. So they are excellent mothers. But what I said to them, and what I say to parents, don't, and parents, if you're listening, love your babies. Yes, love them, protect them.
Mhm.
Strengthen them, feed them, shelter them, do all that. But don't raise your children for today. Raise them for 20 years from now.
Right, because that's going
Raise
to
your
be the
children, because
difference.
they're not going to be in your face all the time. Raise them for mates. Raise them for, raise your sons for wives, and your daughters for husbands. Raise them for production. Raise them to be production. It's okay if they don't marry. It's okay to be single. That's not a problem with that. But
Absolutely.
raise them so that they are productive citizens in society. And what I'm seeing is, we're seeing a pattern of grown children who are not prepared for society. And I'm not talking about your 14 and 15-year-old babies. They're
Right.
not ready
Mhm.
yet. I'm
Right.
talking about your 28 and 29-year-old babies, and your
Absolutely.
32 and 42-year-old babies. 42
Yeah.
years old, still sleeping on your mama's sofa, or
Mhm.
still driving. What? Why?
Exactly.
We have to do a better job. And so here it is now. I tell the children, my children are grown. I
Uh-huh.
have a mentoring program. We just celebrated 10 years for a failure to
Wow.
communicate mentoring program. And within that, I tell them my children are grown. So I don't have a child in the program. I
Oh.
don't have a grandchild in the program. My oldest grandchild is 3 years old. So I don't have a child. I'm here for you. I'm not making money. You're
Mhm.
not paying me anything. I'm here for you. And it's because I trust you, and you're going to be taking care of the laws, and you're going to be doing all these things when I am old.
Uh-huh.
So you're going to be taking care of this generation. So today I asked them, what do you want to be? And I asked the same question. And when one of the girls, they looked around, and so they're so used to laughing and picking and poking at each other, they're uncomfortable sharing. And one of the little girls said, a lawyer. And I said, what did you say? A lawyer. I said, now I know you can speak louder than that. You were just over there, shouting to your lungs, and pitting patting back. So speak. And then I said, do you like to argue? No. So I'm like, here's a teachable moment. These are some things, and you said that these are some skills. You want to be a lawyer, it's doable. You can absolutely be a lawyer. So this is what I want you to do. When I come back on Monday this weekend, I want you to research. You guys know what research means. I want you to research, what does it take for me to be a lawyer. Research what's the path I need to take. What degree do I need to have? What are some of the characteristics of a lawyer? And
Mhm.
if you don't like speaking to people, you're gonna have to either start or rethink that skill, rethink that set. What's comparable that I can do? And that's the thing. We tell them, no, you can't be this, or no,
Right.
that's too hard. And sometimes it's because we didn't do it or we couldn't. I asked them, what do you think I want to be when I wanted to be when I grow up? They said a publisher, a author, a writer, a illustrator, all those things that are connected to me being a publisher.
Right.
And I said, one person said what I wanted to be when I grew up, what I used to want to be. And they figured it out. It was a singer. I used to want to be a singer. And so the person that asked, can you sing? I said, can you sing? Yes, I can sing. I said, sing something. Your mouth gets stuck. I was like, you
Yes.
guys, we have to start teaching our children to behave in a way or conduct themselves in a way that somebody is waiting to give them the best opportunity of their lives.
Right. Right.
And we can't do that because we don't live in their homes.
Absolutely. But we can start the conversation.
Exactly. Exactly. Because we're planting seeds.
Absolutely.
We're
And
planting
those
seeds.
seeds, once they're watered by the correct person, those seeds will grow more seeds. And the more seeds
Exactly.
that we grow and the more seeds that we share with each other, the better this world will be.
Exactly. So tell me about some of your other programs. So what happens once you go into the schools and go into the vulnerable communities? And so I'm going to ask this question. It's a silly question, but why vulnerable communities? Some people say it's too hard. Why not the middle class upper echelon communities?
Well, being as though I was in a vulnerable situation, and I was in the projects, and most of the kids who they say won't be anything are in those communities. I know that they are the brightest kids because
Mhm.
guess what? I came from that community.
Mhm.
And when I tell them that, one, I live where you live right now for 13 years.
Mhm.
I moved to a middle class neighborhood. Yes, I did. And I came back 40 years later to my same community to work as a nurse.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
40 years later, here I come in that community because who knows what that community need other than me?
Right.
Because I started there.
Yes.
See, that is what people don't think. People sometimes start somewhere and they always think you forget where you live or forget who you were or where you came from. Not this girl. This girl went back 40 years into that same community, and I brought all those 39 years of my education and training right back where it all started to show my community you raised me as a child, as a teenager, and now as an adult, I get to pay it forward. And
Mhm.
paying it forward to those vulnerable communities is what keeps me going. What keeps people looking at what I'm doing. You know, I went back to that community for a family function. I remember the lady who was there, and you know what she told me? I see you. I see you all over Facebook, and you know what I say? This is a proud moment. I
Mm.
don't see anything that I'm doing that's so proud.
Yeah.
The only thing that I see is taking what they taught me because it was not only my mom that taught me what to do in that neighborhood, it was the neighbor, it was the sisters up the street,
Mhm.
it was the healthcare facility up the street, it was that clinic I went to and met that nurse. You know, in conclusion, and I'm sorry to get off the subject,
No, no, no,
but
you're
in
fine.
conclusion to why my mom's death saved my life is because I moved away from the crime and the drugs. I ran fast through the only neighborhood that I call home. They did not discriminate. I did not befriend them. They had no specific color and no specific address. They took the weak and the vulnerable. Some of us were strong and some of us weren't so strong. But what they did was they sent this girl from that vulnerable community back to that community to do and serve the people who served her as a child and strengthen me to come back and give them the lessons that I learned when I was out in those communities and mid-class neighborhoods and
Mhm.
all the education that I got from college to come back and remember where I came from because that's where my seed was planted.
See, see. Awesome. Awesome. Guys, we have been talking to Charlene, old womana,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
and she and you have a book. You wrote a book, right?
I've written about 10 anthologies and 4 books on my own. One
Wow.
include a child's book about vaccines and shots.
Ah,
You know, I want to change the trajectory for all kids. You're not coming to a clinic where I work and get a shot. You're coming to a clinic where I work to get a vaccine because vaccines don't hurt. A flu shot hurt. A vaccine does not hurt. And I'm going to get you so comfortable with getting vaccines. So when you come and get that flu shot, it's going to be a breeze.
wow. Okay. All right. So tell me about your other books. You said you read, wow. 10, did you say 10 anthologies?
10 anthologies.
10
Yes.
anthologies. Wow.
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. And 4 books, 4 other
Of
books
my own.
of
Yes.
her own. Amazing. Amazing. I love it. I love it. Best-selling author too.
Yes. And
Might
you
I
know what inspired me to do that? Exactly what you're going into the community to do. My uncle used to visit us every Saturday, right?
add?
And
Mhm.
he would tell me and my brother we had to have a book report for him every Saturday if we wanted our allowance.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Now, the part that I did not know when I was a child, and I did not know until my uncle passed away, is my uncle could not read.
Wow.
So
Wow.
all these book reports that me and my brother was turning into him, he saw in us. He planted that seed that we needed to read and we needed to write.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that was something that he did not do. And he made sure that me and my brother knew that in order for us to get out of that community, in order for us to make it better for us, we had to learn to read and write. So if you share that story with your students, I guarantee you, you will have a lot more writers in that class. A lot more people going on this side of the ocean for the seed to be planted instead of
Exactly.
going on the play side with the seed.
Exactly. I like when I started those programs, I go in and we have 3 rules. There are 3 rules. Number 1, be respectful.
Mhm,
Number 2, just try. Number
mhm.
3, be open-minded. Those are
Right.
the 3 rules. And the first day that I went to this one particular center, the one girl, she acted such a fool. She threw the chair, she threw my supplies, and so I was like, okay, you got to get out of here. So she left. But when I came back the next time, I said, okay, there's something there. There's something there. There is something in this child. And when I came, I made her. She was in there, and I spoke her. I said, can you help me pass these pencils out?
She want to be a
Can you?
leader.
So I had her help. I said, and when you go over to hand out a pencil, if they're not sitting correctly, don't give
Mhm.
them one. And so I said, you want to share? She shared I shared with them my bully experience.
Mhm.
And I showed them my leg, and I showed them. I said, I was on crutches, and what I was bullied, and I had crutches, and I had cast up to here. And what would, if you were me, what would you have done? And a lot of times, because of the communities that they live in and what they learn, they immediately go to violence.
Mhm.
I would have bashed him in the head with the crutch, or I would have did this. And I was like, well, how was I supposed to do that? I didn't have one leg. I'm not going to kick with one leg. But
Yeah.
so I said, so how do you feel when somebody's mean to you? And so we started the conversation. You don't like it? Do you like it? How do you feel? How does that feel? So I said, I want you to write about it. I don't like when somebody is mean to me.
Mhm.
And I had them share the next week. And this particular child, she didn't share her experience from I don't like when a child. She shared her experience from a adult bullying her.
Wow. Wasn't that
and
amazing?
and some of the others shared their stories, and I was like, okay, awesome, awesome. So the next week I had them, I said, who's your favorite person? You have a favorite person? And some of them, they say, I do. Who's your favorite person? So I gave them a piece of paper, and I gave them an envelope, and I said, write a letter to your favorite person,
Oh,
and
wow.
write your name on the envelope, and close it. So one little boy said, I don't have no favorite person. And I said, you don't have a favorite person? You don't like anybody? No. And I said, okay, well, write that. Well, what am I supposed to write? I said, I don't have no favorite person. And he was like, well, how am I supposed to, what am I supposed to write? I don't have no favorite person.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, write that. So as we're going through, and I changed the room, and we had the stage and we had the audience, and people were sharing and they were starting to engage. He tapped me on my shoulder. He said, Miss
Oh,
LaQuita, he said, remember when I said I didn't have no favorite person? I said,
oh,
I do. He said, I do. And I said, okay, would you like to write about it and then bring it back to me next week? And he said, yes. So I came home and I brought the letters with me, and they were some amazing letters. But this little boy, he wrote, I don't have no favorite person. I lost my friend.
oh.
So
See?
today, so there's reason behind it. So today, when I saw him, I said, I read your letter. I said, what happened to your friend? He said when he was little, he said when he was younger, he's 9. He said, I had a friend and I like to play with my friend. And then one day my mama told me that we had to move. And
Mm,
I didn't get to play with my friend anymore. And I miss my friend.
right,
So he said I didn't have anybody to play with. And the stories that there's the why I was telling the owner, these kids, they're writing. So I'm like, listen, when people won't listen to you, write about it.
right,
One of the little boys who was just very emotional, and every time you tell him no, he slams his head down on the desk. Well, in his outburst as we're sharing today, and he said my daddy left me and my mama. It's just me and
right.
her. So there's anger there. And then my little sweet girl who threw the chair across the room, who shared her bully story, she got into a fight today, so she couldn't come in my class. But she was looking, Miss LaQuita, and I said, what's going on? She won't let me come in. The teacher won't let her come in. I said, okay. She said, but I want to share my story. I said, well, are you in timeout? And she said, yes. I said, well, go back to timeout. After I'm done here, I'll come and you can share your story. And she shared
Oh,
her story, an amazing story. And I said, what happened here? What
yeah,
happened? I said, sometimes our emotions get the best of us. I said, but when you write, people can't take that away from you. They can't
right.
they can't interject your thoughts. I said, sometimes when we want to be emotional and we want to put our hands on people, write about it. So I asked her, I said, I want you to write about your experience today.
Mm-hmm.
How could you have done something different? And her writing is the most complete. Her thoughts are complete. She's very
Wow,
clear, very descriptive, and she was very clear about the adult that bullied her. I mean, you can tell that she was not lying.
wow.
So she has all that
Yes.
built up. And as I was leaving, a couple of the staff said, oh, are you on your way to the doctor? And I was like, what do you mean? Are you going? I don't see how you can stay back there. And I said, because there's a story.
Mm. There's a
100% of
soul.
everybody living, they
It's a
got a
soul.
soul.
Yeah.
100% of everybody living and dead has a story. And those children are no different. The only difference is they are not able to articulate it, so it comes out in the behavior.
Right.
And we have 2 minutes. And wow, this has been a great conversation. I love working with young people. I love helping people. And you guys, this has been another great episode with another great guest. Thank you so much. Tell our listeners how they can reach out to you. How can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook under Charlene Harada Womana. You can also find me on Instagram under Charlene Harada Womana or The Magic Nurse. I am now The Magic Nurse, and you can reach out to me email nurseslounge@icloud.com.
Awesome. And if you have a story, and I know that you do, because 100% of everybody living and dead has a story, reach out to me, LaQuita Parks at PayProV Publishing. That's PAPROVI Publishing.com. And I can help you take your story from a thought to a realization. There's always somebody waiting on the other side of your story so that they can get healing from their story. So no matter where you are in your story writing journey, if you have a story, and I know you do, we can help you write your story. If you have your story and you started writing and you feel stuck, we can help you get unstuck. If you've written your story and you just need a publisher and you need somebody to help you, we can do that too. And so this is another episode. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. It has been a plump, pleasing pleasure, better than a triple decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Until next time, be great. God bless you.